Originally, Pachyrynosaurus was intended to appear in Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, but after the release of the first trailer, it was replaced with Sinoceratops. This likely explains why the Mattel toy bears a closer resemblance to Pachyrynosaurus than to Sinoceratops. At one point, the holes in the frill were planned to appear on only a single individual and were meant to be the result of an injury rather than a natural trait of the clone's biology. This seems to be a reference to the film Walking with Dinosaurs, in which the protagonist, Patchy the Pachyrynosaurus, sustains a similar frill wound from a Truden bite. In the series Jurassic World, Camp Cretaceous, it was depicted that Sinoceratops, as herbivores, coexist peacefully with other herbivores. They are often seen walking together in groups, either for grazing on grass or simply moving together. This behavior suggests a harmonious and cooperative social interaction among these herbivorous dinosaurs. Sinoceratops was genetically recreated by InGen for Jurassic World on Isla Nublar. After the park's abandonment, some survived on the island and were later captured during the 2018 rescue mission before Mount Sibo's eruption. They were transported to the Lockwood estate for a black market auction, but Claire Deering and Owen Grady stopped the sale, releasing the dinosaurs, including Sinoceratops, into the wilds of Northern California. For years later, several Sinoceratops were spotted interacting with African elephants. It was a medium-sized, averagely built, ground-dwelling, quadrupedal herbivore. It could grow up to an estimated 5 meters in length and weigh up to 2 tons. Features that differentiate an animal from most or all others are called a diagnosis. Some, but not all of the features in a diagnosis are also autapomorphies. An autapomorphy is a distinctive anatomical feature that is unique to a given organism. It was the first ceratopsid dinosaur discovered in China, and the only ceratopsid known from Asia. All other centrosaurines and all chasmosaurines are known from fossils discovered in North America, except for possibly Tyrannoceratops. Sinoceratops is also significant because it is one of the largest known centrosaurines and is much larger than any other known basal members of this group. In the films, Compsognathus takes the role of the similarly named Procompsognathus. Dieter Stark's death in The Lost World mirrors John Hammond's death by Procompsognathus in the novel. Behind the scenes, the animatronics team even referred to them as Procompsognathus. Dr. Burke mistakenly calls the species Compsognathus triassicus a mix of Compsognathus and Procompsognathus triassicus. Whether this was a script error or part of the film's canon is unclear, but paleontologist Jack Horner has confirmed they are indeed Compsognathus. Compsognathus was created by InGen inside their compound on Isla Sorna, where the juveniles were taken care of by the workers there. They were not planned for Jurassic Park on Isla Nublar, but after the 1993 incident, InGen reported that there was a population of 28 individuals on the island. It suggested that they managed to reach the island via hiding on InGen cargo vessels between Nublar and Site B. When the Bowman family went to Isla Sorna for vacation, Kathy Bowman encountered a Compsognathus scout on one of the island's beaches. She liked the small dinosaur and fed it some food, but to her and her family's horror, the rest of the pack emerged from the nearby forest to attack Kathy, though she survived the attack. Hunters captured several Compsognathus, with 2 showcased by Peter Ludlow in his broadcast. The gatherers later freed at least 3, while others may have been killed when a Triceratops was released. Dieter Stark encountered a Compsognathus while urinating in the woods and tossed it, unaware it was a scout for its pack. The pack pursued him, attacking when he tripped. Though he initially fought them off, they returned out of stream, ultimately killing him, likely due to their venom weakening him. Compsognathus were also briefly encountered during the 2001 Isla Sorna incident. Years later, Compsognathus were exhibited at Jurassic World on Isla Nublar, where, like all other dinosaurs, they became wild again following the 2015 Jurassic World incident. A 2001 study found no signs of stress fractures in Compsognathus foot bones. Early interpretations suggested the French specimen had webbed hands, implying an amphibious lifestyle, but this was later debunked as an artifact of sedimentary structures. Fossil evidence from the German specimen shows that Compsognathus preyed on small vertebrates, particularly lizards. The remains of a Bavarisaurus lizard in its stomach suggest it was a fast predator with sharp vision and agility. A separate study identified the lizard remains as a new species, Skundsmal dyspepsia. The way Compsognathus consumed its prey resembled modern predatory birds, dismembering it before swallowing. The French specimen also contained unidentified lizard or sphenodontid remains in its stomach. Some researchers once believed circular structures near the German specimen were eggs, but later studies suggested they were gas bubbles from decomposition. A 2007 computer model estimated Compsognathus could run at 18 meters per second. Though this has been debated, during the late Jurassic, Europe was a tropical archipelago with dry conditions. Compsognathus fossils were found in fine limestone formed from marine organism shells, indicating a coastal environment. Both known specimens were preserved in lagoons near beaches and coral reefs in the Tethys Sea. This suggests that Compsognathus lived in island ecosystems, possibly preying on small vertebrates in these environments. Polacanthus was a medium-sized ankylosaur, estimated to be around 4 to 5 meters long and weighing between 227 kilograms to 2 tons, depending on the study. Its hind limbs were relatively long. For an ankylosaur, with the right femur of the holotype measuring 50 centimeters, it had distinct skeletal traits, including a groove in the neural canal and triangular-based caudal spikes. Later research suggested that its ischia curved inward, touching at the rear. Its armor was a major focus of study, with a large pelvic shield made of a fused dermal bone sheet covering its hips. This pelvic shield measured 1 meter wide and 90 centimeters long, featuring rows of keeled osteoderms surrounded by smaller ossicles. Some of these ossicles were fused into flat plates, providing additional protection. Hulke proposed that Polacanthus had 2 rows of keeled osteoderms along its tail and a set of spikes on its rump. Nopcsa later suggested that both the tail and the front of the body had 2 parallel rows of spikes, with 5 on the neck and 22 shorter ones on the tail. The asymmetry of the spikes helped determine their placement. In 1987, Blows categorized 3 different spike types, classifying additional fossil finds based on variations from the holotype. The armor configuration of Polacanthus is similar to that of other basal nodosaurids, such as Gastonia and Maiasaura. The presence of extensive armor suggests it was well defended against predators. Its body structure indicates it was a quadrupedal herbivore, likely feeding on low-growing vegetation. Fossil evidence, including tibia, vertebrae, and scuts, provides insight into its overall anatomy and defensive adaptations. Polacanthus lived during the early Cretaceous period, primarily found in England. A footprint attributed to Polacanthus was discovered in 2013 on the Isle of Wight by Henley Hobbs and his father. The footprint is now displayed at the dinosaur farm on the Isle of Wight. Ongoing research continues to refine our understanding of Polacanthus's anatomy and classification within the ankylosaur group. Its defensive adaptations and unique skeletal traits make it an important subject in ankylosaur studies. So far, Elasmosaurus hasn't appeared in any of the films or the novels, although a skull of a plesiosaur is in Jurassic Park, the game in 2011, and it possibly belongs to Elasmosaurus. Elasmosaurus was a long-necked marine reptile with a streamlined body, paddle-like limbs, and a small head. Its neck measured about 7 meters, making it one of the longest-necked animals ever. Studies suggested a length of around 10 meters. Elasmosaurus had a triangular skull with a rounded snout and likely possessed large, fawn-like teeth at the front of its jaws. Unlike many long-necked animals, its vertebrae were not elongated. Instead, the extreme neck length came from the sheer number of vertebrae. Its limbs were long and paddle-like, with the front flippers larger than the rear ones, helping it move efficiently in water. Fossil evidence suggests that Elasmosaurus, like other elasmosaurids, may have had a tail fin, though its exact shape remains unknown. Elasmosaurids were fully adapted to life in the ocean, with streamlined bodies and long paddles that made them efficient swimmers. However, their unusual body structure limited their speed, and their paddles moved in a rowing-like motion, remaining rigid. Plesiosaurs were likely able to maintain a high body temperature, which allowed for sustained swimming. Studies suggest that their foreflippers were primarily used for propulsion, while the hind flippers helped with maneuverability and stability. Unlike sea turtles, elasmosaurids were too specialized for swimming to come onto land, meaning they probably gave birth to live young. Fossil evidence indicates they were preyed upon by marine predators such as the shark Cretoxorina and the pliosaur Chronosaurus. Early depictions portrayed Elasmosaurus as raising its long neck like a swan, but modern research shows that such a posture was impossible due to the weight and limited flexibility of the neck. Instead, its neck likely acted as a rudder while swimming, helping to steer its large body, although long necks increased drag. This was counterbalanced by their large torsos, making them effective hunters. Elasmosaurids may have ambushed prey from below, using their upward-facing eyes for stereoscopic vision. Their long, slender teeth were adapted for seizing prey rather than tearing, meaning they likely swallowed their food whole. Finally, gastroliths found in related species suggest elasmosaurids may have used stones to aid in digestion or control buoyancy while swimming. Maiasaura do not appear physically in any of the 6 Jurassic Park films so far, though it was mentioned in a scene of the script for the second film, and some of their behavioral characteristics were transferred to the Parasaurolophus. During the Isla Sorna incident in the Lost World, an info sheet of Maiasaura can be seen, implying that the species has been cloned. It states that it is a pale red with a tan underbelly and dark striping. However, none are seen on screen by the hunters. Maiasaura pebulsorum was a large herbivorous dinosaur, reaching up to 9 meters in length and weighing around 4 metric tons. It had a distinctive short, solid crest between its eyes, possibly used for headbutting contests. This hadrosaur could walk both bipedally and quadrupedally, with juveniles primarily walking on 2 legs before transitioning to 4 as they grew. With little natural weaponry, Maiasaura likely relied on fleeing from predators and the protection of its massive herds, which could number up to 10,000 individuals. Fossil evidence from the Two Medicine Formation provides insight into its growth stages, making it crucial for understanding hadrosaur development. It lived in a terrestrial environment, moving in vast groups for safety. Maiasaura lived in large herds and raised its young in nesting colonies, with nests packed closely together, similar to modern seabirds. Each nest contained 30 to 40 eggs, laid in a circular or spiral pattern, and was incubated by the heat of rotting vegetation rather than parental body warmth. Fossils show that hatchlings had underdeveloped legs, making them incapable of walking, and their worn teeth suggest that parents brought food to the nest. Hatchlings grew rapidly, reaching up to 1.5 meters in their first year before leaving the nest. This high growth rate may indicate warm-bloodedness. Juveniles had larger eyes and shorter snouts compared to adults, traits associated with parental care. Studies of Maiasaura's life history reveal an extremely high first-year mortality rate of 9%, dropping significantly to 12% if they survive beyond that. Sexual maturity occurred around 3 years. while full skeletal maturity was reached at 8 years. Mortality rates increased again in older individuals, suggesting a lifespan of around 8 years or more. As they aged, they transitioned from primarily bipedal movement to a more quadrupedal stance. Maiasaura's diet included fibrous plants, rotting wood, tree bark, ferns, angiosperms, and possibly grasses, indicating it was both a browser and a grazer. Research also suggests that Maiasaura experienced seasonal droughts in its environment, which may have influenced its diet and survival strategies. Studies on fossils indicate possible sexual dimorphism, with one sex being about 45% larger than the other, though it is unclear whether males or females were larger. These detailed insights into Maiasaura's life history make it one of the best understood dinosaurs, providing valuable comparisons for other species. In the script for The Lost World, there was originally a scene featuring 2 Mamenchisaurus mating after Sarah Harding's escape from a Stegosaurus, but it was ultimately removed. Mamenchisaurus was also absent from the game trail scene, where Apatosaurus was used instead. Initially, the dinosaur was meant to represent Seismosaurus, with its head sculpt modeled after a Seismosaurus skull, but for unknown reasons, the name Mamenchisaurus was chosen. Mark McCreary sketched the Mamenchisaurus design, which was later colored by Jim Charmatz. Instead of creating a completely new CGI model, Industrial Light and Magic modified the Brachiosaurus model from the first film. The changes included a longer neck, an elongated head, and a more whip-like tail to resemble Mamenchisaurus. Colin Wilson explained that since Brachiosaurus already had a similar body shape, it was easier to adapt the existing model. The modifications were done by Ken Bryan, ensuring that Mamenchisaurus fit seamlessly into the film's visual effects. For Mamenchisaurus were created by InGen scientists in their compound on Elasmosaurus, where they were taken care of by the workers there. After Hurricane Clarissa struck the island, they became wild like all of the dinosaurs on Elasmosaurus, having been freed by the workers before they evacuated. While the InGen hunters captured the island's wild dinosaurs, 2 Mamenchisaurs walked out of the forest into the open field. Peter Ludlow was amazed by the enormous size of the animals. One of the hunters drove between a Mamenchisaurus legs with a motorbike. It is unknown if Peter Ludlow captured a Mamenchisaurus for his Jurassic Park in San Diego. Some species assigned to Mamenchisaurus may not belong to the genus due to differences in size and skeletal features. However, all share typical sauropod traits such as large bodies, small heads, long tails, and exceptionally long necks that make up nearly half their body length. Mamenchisaurus had elongated, lightweight, and highly pneumatic cervical vertebrae with neural spines that were bifurcated in certain sections. The type species Mamenchisaurus constructus was around 15 meters long, but its neck was incompletely preserved. Hocuanensis species reached 22 meters in length, with a 9-meter neck, though estimates of its mass vary widely. Some researchers suggest it had 18 cervical and 13 dorsal vertebrae, rather than the previously believed 19 cervical and 12 dorsal vertebrae. The genus had forked chevrons on the tail, similar to diplodocids, which may have supported a rearing posture. A specimen possibly related to Mamenchisaurus hocuanensis showed fused tail vertebrae, suggesting a tail club that may have functioned as a sensory organ. Studies indicate that its neck was relatively straight in a neutral posture with high flexibility at the base and near the head, suggesting it primarily fed at low levels. A large ulna from the Shishiga Formation suggests that at least some Mamenchisaurus individuals lived up to 43 years. In the novel Jurassic Park, Cearadactylus lived inside the Isla Nobler aviary. They were led out into the aviary as to acclimate them to the enclosure's environment. However, they were discovered to have a hostile, territorial behavior. They were attacking maintenance crews that were working on the Cearadactylus Lodge, a second hotel where visitors could observe the pterosaurs at flight level. They would fold up their wings like bats and dive, striking workmen with such force, incapacitating them. Later in the novel, they were confused by the characters with Cearadactylus, but Alan Grant recognized them as Cearadactylus. According to Grant's description, they had membranous wings that they could fold up and walk with, and clawed forearms for grasping fish. That was precisely, ultimately put into the Isla Sorna aviary scene in Jurassic Park 3. In the novel, the counting system counts 6 pterosaurs, although Dr. Wu specifically says that they have 4 pterosaurs. The holotype of Cearadactylus was purchased from fossil dealers in Italy in 1983 rather than excavated by researchers. These dealers made errors in reconstructing the skull, mistakenly placing the lower jaw upside down and enlarging the teeth. When properly reassembled by the National Museum of Brazil, it was revealed that the teeth formed a smaller rosette for prey capture, and a crest was identified on the snout. This confirmed Cearadactylus as a member of the Ornithocaridae family. Since only the skull is known, its wingspan has been estimated by comparing it to related pterosaurs, though methods and interpretations vary. A second skull was initially attributed to Cearadactylus ligabui, but it was also incorrectly reconstructed by fossil traders. Some researchers questioned whether the 2 main skull fragments belonged to the same species. Later studies reassigned the skull to Anhangara and Calabrincus. These misidentifications highlight the challenges of working with fossils obtained from commercial sources. During the development of Jurassic Park 3, filmmakers sought a new dinosaur antagonist to replace Tyrannosaurus rex. Initially, Baryonyx was considered, but paleontologist Jack Horner suggested Spinosaurus instead, inspired by a newly discovered Spinosaur skull. Concept artist Mark McCreary designed the creature, drawing influences from Suchomimus and real Spinosaurus fossils. The animatronic was built by Stan Winston Studio to be more powerful, faster, and more durable than previous Tyrannosaurus models, featuring advanced hydraulic systems and waterproof materials. The Spinosaurus animatronic was the largest ever built by the studio, requiring a wall removal for transportation. Its teeth were replicated multiple times due to potential breakage during filming. CGI and practical effects, including a large foot prop, were used for key scenes like the plane attack. The animatronic required 8 puppeteers for operation, controlling different body parts. The Spinosaurus was transported to Universal Studios at night to avoid blocking traffic due to its massive size. After InGen was acquired by Masrani Global Corporation, secret cloning experiments took place on Isla Sorna in 1999, despite the Gene Guard Act. Spinosaurus was among the illegally cloned dinosaurs. It was not part of InGen's official list and was never intended to be an attraction in Jurassic Park. After 9 months of experimentation, Spinosaurus was released into the wild, and all traces of its creation were covered up. By 2001, it was the largest carnivore on Isla Sorna, standing 6 meters tall, 15 meters long, and weighing 8 tons. Its genetic status regarding the lysine deficiency remains unknown. Only one individual was ever documented, residing in the island's northeast jungles. It became the apex predator, surpassing Tyrannosaurus rex, which previously dominated the ecosystem. Highly territorial, the Spinosaurus appeared to have an innate drive to eliminate its rival species. In 2001 incident, Kirby tried to save their son, when Amanda Kirby's calls for her son attracted a Spinosaurus, which relentlessly pursued her group. The dinosaur killed mercenaries, then attacked their plane, causing it to crash before continuing its rampage. Later, the Spinosaurus battled and killed a Tyrannosaurus rex, cementing itself as the island's dominant predator. Later, the Spinosaurus made a final attack on the escaping humans by ambushing their boat during a nighttime storm. It damaged the vessel and nearly drowned the group by dragging their cage underwater. Paul Kirby distracted the predator while Alan Grant used a flare gun to ignite leaking fuel, scaring the Spinosaurus away and ending its pursuit. The function of Spinosaurus' sail or hump is uncertain, with hypotheses including thermoregulation, intimidation, and display. Some scientists suggest that if the sail contained blood vessels, it could have helped the dinosaur absorb or dissipate heat. Others propose that the sail may have made Spinosaurus appear larger, intimidating rivals or attracting mates. Another theory argues that instead of a sail, Spinosaurus may have had a fatty hump for energy storage and insulation. Some researchers compare Spinosaurus' sail to that of sailfish, suggesting it aided in aquatic hunting. Similar to sailfish, Spinosaurus might have used its sail to stabilize movements and herd fish. Additionally, its long, flexible tail may have been used to stun prey, much like thresher sharks. Spinosaurus' diet is debated, but evidence suggests it was primarily a fish eater. Fossilized stomach contents of related species show fish remains, and its jaw structure resembles that of crocodiles. However, it likely had a varied diet, scavenging or hunting small and medium-sized land animals. Isotope analysis of Spinosaurus teeth suggests a semi-aquatic lifestyle with oxygen ratios similar to turtles and crocodiles. However, some studies argue it was too buoyant to dive and may have hunted in shallow water. More recent research on its tail suggests it was well adapted for swimming, with movements comparable to crocodilians. Despite being traditionally depicted as a biped, Spinosaurus may have had a quadrupedal stance due to its short hind limbs. Some reconstructions suggest it was an obligate quadruped, though this remains controversial. Other studies argue it was a slow-moving biped with adaptations for water. Recent studies on Spinosaurus bone density indicate it was better suited for diving than other spinosaurids, though some researchers suggest it hunted like a heron rather than a pursuit predator. Additionally, findings suggest Spinosaurus young may have developed semi-aquatic traits early in life. Paleopathological studies of Spinosaurus teeth reveal patterns that suggest a specialized feeding style. However, debates continue regarding its locomotion, hunting strategies, and ecological role. Olorotitan is the most complete lambeosaurine skeleton discovered outside North America. This large hadrosaurid was similar in size to other lambeosaurines like Parasaurolophus, reaching up to 8 meters in length, 3.5 meters in height, and weighing between 2.6 and 3.4 tons. One of its most distinctive features was its large hatchet-shaped hollow crest, which set it apart from its North American relatives. The skull was supported by an unusually long neck with 18 vertebrae, surpassing the typical hadrosaurid count of 15. The sacrum contained 15 or 16 vertebrae, exceeding the number found in other hadrosaurids. Additionally, the proximal third of the tail had interlocking neural spine tips, creating a rigid structure. This unique feature appears to be a natural anatomical adaptation rather than a result of pathology, though further specimens are needed for confirmation. A phylogenetic analysis by Godefroy and colleagues suggested that Olorotitan was most closely related to Corythosaurus and Hypacrosaurus. As a hadrosaurid, Olorotitan was an herbivore capable of moving on both 2 and 4 legs. Its advanced skull structure allowed a grinding motion similar to chewing, supported by hundreds of constantly replaced teeth. The large, hollow crest, formed from expanded skull bones enclosing the nasal passages, likely played a role in visual and auditory communication for species recognition. Unlike the situation in North America, where lambeosaurines are virtually absent from late Maastrichtian rocks, Asian lambeosaurines are diverse and common at the end of the Mesozoic, suggesting climatic or ecological differences. The generic name Olorotitan means Titanic swan because its neck is longer when compared with other hadrosaurs. Cryolophosaurus was a large, well-built theropod and one of the biggest carnivores of the early Jurassic. The holotype specimen is estimated to have been 6 to 7 meters long and weighed between 350 and 460 kilograms. Some researchers believe the holotype represents a subadult, meaning fully grown individuals may have been even bigger. The skull was long and narrow, measuring approximately 65 centimeters, and featured a unique, high crest running transversely across the head. Unlike other theropods with longitudinal crests, Cryolophosaurus had a perpendicular structure formed by fused skull bones above the eyes. Studies of the brain cavity suggest Cryolophosaurus was a basal theropod with skull characteristics similar to Dilophosaurus. Researchers propose that its crest was not used for combat, but rather for display, possibly in social or mating behaviors. Some scientists argue it served as a recognition feature within the species, while others believe it played a role in socio-sexual displays. However, the function of the crest remains debated. Fossil evidence suggests Cryolophosaurus was a carnivore. When the holotype was discovered, ribs of a prosauropod were found in its mouth, leading one hypothesis to suggest that the theropod choked to death while feeding. However, later studies indicated that the bones might actually belong to Cryolophosaurus itself. A tooth from a tritylodont, a mammal relative, was also found near the remains, raising the possibility that it was part of its stomach contents. There is also evidence of scavenging, as broken teeth from a juvenile Cryolophosaurus were discovered nearby, suggesting it fed on the adult's carcass. Some of its bones exhibit signs of pathology, including a possible injury in the ankle region, though this could also be a unique anatomical feature. Cryolophosaurus lived in what is now Antarctica, specifically in the Hansen Formation, one of the few major dinosaur-bearing formations on the continent. Although discovered only 650 kilometers from the South Pole, Antarctica was located farther north in the early Jurassic and had a much warmer climate. The region had cool, temperate conditions similar to modern southern Chile, with relatively stable coastal temperatures that rarely dropped below freezing. The Hansen Formation contains volcanic sediments, indicating that Cryolophosaurus lived in an environment shaped by both fluvial and volcanic activity.